Good morning. My name is Reverend Connie Simon. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. If this is your first time joining us, we're glad you're here. In our community, we welcome all with love, and we work for justice, equity, and inclusion, while supporting one another on our individual spiritual paths. At the end of our service, you'll see some announcements with upcoming events here at the church. If you have questions about any of those events, or if you'd like to know more about First Church, please email us at member-care@firstuu.com. We begin our worship, as we do every Sunday, by lighting our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith. And this morning, we do so with the words of Gary Kowalski. With faith to face our challenges, with love that casts out fear, with hope to trust tomorrow, we accept this day as the gift it is, a reason for rejoicing.
Last Stop on Market Street by Matt de la Buena, illustrated by Christian Robinson. CJ pushed through the church doors and skipped down the steps. The outside air smelled like freedom, but it also smelled like rain, which freckled CJ's shirt and dripped down his nose. He ducked under his Nana's umbrella, saying, "How come we gotta wait for the bus and all this wet?" "Trees get thirsty too," his Nana told him. "Don't you see that big one drinking through a straw?" CJ looked for a long time, but never saw a straw. From the bus stop, he watched water pool on flower petals, watched rain pattered against the windshield of a nearby car. His friend Colby climbed in, gave CJ a wave, and drove off with his dad. "Nana, how come we don't got a car?" "Boy, what do you need a car for? We got a bus that breathes fire, and old Mr. Dennis, who always has a trick for you." The bus creaked to a stop in front of them. It sighed and sagged, and the door swung open. "What's that I see?" Mr. Dennis asked. He pulled a coin from behind CJ's ear, placed it in his palm. Nana laughed her deep laugh and pushed CJ along. They sat right up front. The man across the way was tuning a guitar. An old woman with curlers had butterflies in a jar. Nana gave everyone a great big smile and a good afternoon. She made sure CJ did the same. The bus lurched forward and stopped. Lurched forward and stopped. Nana hummed as she knit. "How come we always gotta go here after church?" CJ asked. "Miguel and Colby never have to go nowhere." "I feel sorry for those boys," she told him. "They'll never get a chance to meet Bobo or the sunglass man. And I hear Trixie got herself a brand new hat." CJ stared out the window, feeling sorry for himself. He watched cars zip by on either side. Watched a group of boys hop curbs on bikes. A man climbed aboard with a spotted dog. CJ gave up his seat. "How come that man can't see?" "Boy, what do you know about seeing?" Nana told him. "Some people watch the world with their ears." "That's a fact. Their noses too," the man said, sniffing at the air. "That's a mighty fine perfume you're wearing today, ma'am." Nana squeezed the man's hand and laughed her deep laugh. Two older boys got on next. CJ watched as they moved on by and stood in back. "Sure wish I had one of those," he said. Nana set down her knitting. "What for? You got the real live thing sitting across from you. Why don't you ask the man if he'll play a song for us?" CJ didn't have to. The guitar player was already plucking strings and beginning to sing. "To feel the magic of music," the blind man whispered, "I like to close my eyes." Nana closed hers too. So did CJ and the spotted dog. And in the darkness, the rhythm lifted CJ out of the bus, out of the busy city. He saw sunset colors swirling over crashing waves, saw a family of hawks slicing through the sky, saw the old woman's butterflies dancing free in the light of the moon. CJ's chest grew full and he was lost in the sound. And the sound gave him the feeling of... The song ended and CJ opened his eyes. Everyone on the bus clapped, even the boys in the back. Nana glanced at the coin in CJ's palm. CJ dropped it in the man's hat. "Last stop on Market Street," Mr. Dennis called. CJ looked around as he stepped off the bus. Crumbling sidewalks and broken down doors, graffiti-tagged windows and boarded-up stores. He reached for his Nana's hand. "How come it's always so dirty over here?" She smiled and pointed to the sky. "Sometimes, when you're surrounded by dirt, CJ, you're a better witness for what's beautiful." CJ saw the perfect rainbow arcing over the soup kitchen. He wondered how his Nana always found it beautiful, where he never even thought to look. He looked around them again. At the bus rounding the corner out of sight, and the broken street lamps still lit up bright, and the stray cat shadows moving across the wall. When he spotted their familiar faces in the window, he said, "I'm glad we came." He thought his Nana might laugh her deep laugh, but she didn't. She patted him on the head and told him, "Me too, CJ. Now, come on." I wonder what we miss when we don't get on the bus.
There are lots of things that typically happen in the spring that have happened even though we're still in the midst of the coronavirus. Our youth are still graduating from high school and from college and from graduate schools and are preparing for first grade and leaving kindergarten and moving away from home and doing all of the things that youth do. Today, we want to honor 4 youth from our congregation who are graduating high school and leaving us to go to college. Park Dendy. We will miss Park's guitar playing, his justice mind, and his infectious sense of humor and spirit. Peter Kelly. Peter and his family joined our community just over a year ago, and we're still getting to know them, and already Peter has just become part of the heart of this community. We wish him well too. Adam Rohr, whose parents and grandparents are integral members of this community, serving in a number of capacities. They've raised Adam in this church. He's become quite a young leader. We'll miss him as well as he goes off to school. And Zoe Zoller, who is talented and courageous and funny and fierce and beautiful and smart, and who has a very, very bright future ahead of her. We will miss her as well. All 4 of our youth, with their beautiful faces, their beautiful souls and spirits, are moving on to begin the next phase of their lives. And we want to give them some advice as they go off to school. This is advice that was given to me by my home congregation when I left to go to seminary. It's written by someone whose name has been lost in time, but it's called Advice to a Student. Keep your feet on the floor, but let your love for learning soar. Keep your nose clean, but soil your hands with hard work. Keep your good common sense, and don't forget to use it. Keep doing your work, and remember the difference between done and well done. Keep yourself in your own space, but let your thoughts mingle with those of others. Keep your area clean, but clutter your mind with knowledge. Keep your sense of humor and share it when it will make someone else feel better. Keep turning in your library books on time and never stop checking them out. Keep quiet in the halls, but speak loudly and proudly when presenting your ideas. Keep striving for answers and never stop asking questions. Park, Peter, Adam, and Zoe, we wish you well. We love you and we are proud of you. There's another milestone that was celebrated just yesterday. Our own Amanda Lynch became Amanda Lynch Oney, marrying Tommy Oney, at a ceremony yesterday at the Cincinnati Nature Center. We wish them the very, very best as they begin their journey as man and wife. The tradition of marriage is a wonderful one, that joining of two people together. And for Amanda and Tommy, it was indeed a traditional yet creative and beautiful affair. I am honored to have been part of it, just as I'm honored to celebrate all of the joys of the members of this congregation. And that is why every week we drop stones in water, so that some of that joy can be amplified and shared with other members of the community. So today, I'm going to drop a stone for Park, for Adam, for Peter, and for Zoe, and a larger stone to represent Amanda and Tommy and the family that they will create together. I also drop a stone for all the members of our community who are experiencing joys this week and this day. And at the same time, we must remain mindful that not everyone's life is filled with joy right now. There are those who are experiencing sadness. The coronavirus is not gone. The effects of the pandemic are not gone. There is violence in the Middle East. There is violence in our streets here in this country. There is political division. There are families who are hungry. There are folks who are unhoused. There are people who are incarcerated. For all of those who are lonely, depressed, struggling, or suffering from oppression in our society, we drop another stone, that their sorrows may be healed. I'd like to ask you now to join me in a moment of meditation. Let's get grounded while we look at this image of photos, or this image of flowers that our beloved Louise Hudson raised outside her window. Let us take a breath. Let us begin to breathe. Let us turn inward now. Feel the rhythm of the breath. In and out. In and out. Find the peace of just being with the flow of the breath, letting go of yesterday and tomorrow. Feel the restorative power of the peace of this moment. A peace large enough to open to the concerns and the sorrows that trouble us. A stillness quiet enough to respond to the joys and the celebrations that enliven us. There is safety here in the rhythm of the breath. The ebb and flow of life is enacted with each one. Taking in oxygen sustenance, letting go of carbon dioxide waste. Taking in the fullness of experience, letting go of the residue that wants to cling to us. Cultivate inner peace and inner safety wherever you are in space and time, dedicated to cultivating the spirit of life. Be dedicated to being a beacon of love for all things. At this time, we will accept our offering to support the work of this church, both inside our walls and out in the community. For the month of May, our Share the Plate is for South Avondale Elementary and our literacy efforts there. If you are able to make a contribution to start that work or to continue that work, you may do so by texting the word GIVE to 513-717-7373. If you have access to our Breeze member system, you can click Give Now. Anyone can give online at www.firstuu.com, or you may mail a check to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45219. Remember that if you wish to designate your donation for South Avondale, you should indicate that on the memo line of your check or in your online donation. Our offering will be gratefully received. the storming of the United States Capitol, the murder of George Floyd and too many others, hate crimes against Asian Americans, the rollback of voting rights, COVID and the unemployment, poverty, the eviction, the economic loss, and the death it created, and political and ideological entrenchment. A lot has happened since the last time we were together in this space, physically together. A lot has happened since we announced our year of discovery here at First Church. And in a way, I would say that America has been on its own year of discovery. Not by choice, perhaps, but it has been. And what did America learn? America learned that racism and hatred still exist. America learned that classism is real. America learned that our divisions run deep. Americans learned that the Civil War never really ended. Americans learned that democracy is a funny word. Is it majority rule? And what happens when those who are not in the majority just don't accept it? Is it still democracy? Is it the voice of the people? And if so, of which people? America also learned this year that there is hope. That there are people committed to making things better, committed to change, even when others seem to want to turn the clock back. We had our own year of discovery here, too. And we asked ourselves in this year of discovery, how do we want to be with one another? How do we hold one another? How do we sustain one another? Simple questions, simple to read, simple to answer, or so we all thought. But in fact, they weren't. Because each of the members of this community is also a member of our larger society, a member of American society. And some of the lessons and some of the experiences that we've seen out there can't help but touch us as we exist in here. Now, some of our questions, some of our discovery questions seemed totally logistical on the surface. Questions about building maintenance and technology upgrades, how we do our heart and hand auction. But these questions were really more than that. If you really thought about it, you would have seen that at the core of each of these logistical questions were questions of community, questions of relationship, about our relationships with one another, our relationships with this church, our relationships with our neighbors in Avondale, and our relationships as a congregation with the larger world. So we asked, how do we want to be with one another? How do we hold one another? How do we sustain one another? And we ask these questions in this year of all years, when the pandemic kept us apart, when we couldn't gather together physically, and on the tail of one of the most tumultuous years in First Church history. Well, we learned some things here too. We learned that we do want to be together. We learned that we do want to be united by a common purpose. We learned that we do want to live our mission. We learned that we love First Church, its history and its present. We learned that we are optimistic and hopeful for the future of the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. We learned that we believe in the potential of Unitarian Universalism to change lives and transform the world. What former member Bill Sinkford refers to as the good news of Unitarian Universalism. We learned that change starts here with us at First Church. We are part of it. We will be the ones who make change. Now, these lessons have not been entirely easy to learn. They've been hard. Some of them we grasped very early, like questions about our bylaws and our documents. We realized that our bylaws didn't actually match the way the church had operated for many years. They were outdated, and they don't meet our current needs. We grasped early the need for audiovisual enhancements so that we can reach folks and communicate and connect with you even when the building is closed. It allows us to connect with folks who aren't able to come. It allows you to watch me now from wherever you are. And as a result, we have seen our attendance increase over the number of people who would have been physically present in the sanctuary. And most importantly, our audiovisual equipment allows us to be more accessible to those who have mobility, hearing, and visual impairments. They can participate in the service without having to worry about how they can physically get here. With regard to our security grant and building changes, this was an easy lesson to learn. We knew that we want to protect those in our building, those who come to our community, especially our youth. So doing some enhancements in this area, adding more light outside, creating safe rooms, and installing cameras and audio equipment that will allow us to communicate with the various areas of the church seems like an obvious choice. Now, some of these lessons haven't been so easy. Some of them have been a little more difficult, like our Opening Hearts work. Our Opening Hearts initiative is one of the ministry and the board together. It's a joint initiative that asks us to examine ourselves, to look inside, to learn about ourselves and how we relate to one another and to our community in several areas. The first one being ability and accessibility. How do we relate to those who move differently, who think differently, who process differently? The second is classism. Is our community truly welcome to all, regardless of their income or their educational background or what they do for a living? We looked at racism and all of the ills that it brings with it. We are examining LGBTQ plus inclusivity. How welcoming and inclusive are we of our siblings who have different gender identities and who have perhaps a different sexual orientation than our own? And we're looking at multiculturalism, which includes things like political ideology. Not everyone is a member of the same political party. How do we get along with one another? Not everyone believes in a God or the same God. Some of us are atheists, agnostics, seekers. How do we all come together? And then we also looked at demographics, our age. How do we combine generations in our society? How do we mix young and old and everyone in between so that all are welcome? This work has been a little more difficult. And then there are some things that we thought would be easy, realized they'd be a little more difficult, and in the end, we understand that we have a lot more work to do. And that one, I would say, is understanding the nature of covenant and right relations. That covenant is not just a thing that we wordsmith and hang on the wall and say, it's done. That covenant is a verb. It's a behavior. It's an action. It's a feeling. It's so much more than just a thing. And we are still coming to understand that. We are still coming to understand the nature of democracy in a community of faith. And understanding that democracy doesn't mean getting your way all the time. Democracy doesn't mean continuing to push and push even after the majority has reached a different conclusion. We have learned, or we are still trying to learn, that democracy doesn't mean threats or extortion or cutting people off. Democracy doesn't have to mean any of those things. Instead, it means honoring our responsibility with and to one another and to First Church and to our larger society. It means building trust in each other and in our processes. It means looking forward together and not backward. So where does this leave us? Well, I've thought about this. I knew this sermon was coming. And I had a long talk with my fellowship advisor, who is a very, very wise woman who's been a minister in this faith for a very long time. And she said to me something so simple: remember your call. So I went back in time. Being the organized person that I am, I had notes from the sermons that I delivered while I was here candidating with you. I looked back on the notes from the sessions that we had with Reverends Derek Jackson and Lisa Presley, where we talked about hopes for this congregation, where you drew pictures of what you wanted this community to be, what you envisioned that First Church could be. I went back and looked at the reports from the search committee, where you did surveys and had focus groups, and you talked about all the things that you want to be as a community, about all the work that you wanted to do. And the funny thing about it was, in some ways, we're right back where we started. I wouldn't say that we haven't made any progress, because I absolutely believe we have. But we still have work to do. We have much work to do. You said you wanted a diverse, welcoming community. You said you wanted your doors open to everyone in the Avondale neighborhood. You said you wanted to be part of the neighborhood. You wanted to be part of justice efforts in the city. You wanted to be part of the larger UU faith movement and the justice issues that are happening there, like UU the vote, LGBTQ plus support, like widening the circle. You said that you wanted to work on climate justice and sustainability. You said that you wanted to find ways to keep this church financially sustainable, that you wanted to maintain this building, that you wanted to continue to innovate and grow and bring in new families and have their children have the opportunity to grow up in this church, just as many of your children have. That's what you said you wanted. And I stood here on April 29th, 2018, and I said, we will work toward that together. We will do this hard work together. I answered your call. I agreed to do what you asked. I covenanted with you to be on this journey. And now here we are. And some of the things we've grasped early, and some of them have been a little more difficult, and some things we're still working on. Our journey's not over by any stretch of the imagination. We still have a long ways to go. We have done good work, and still we have much to do. I will remind you of what I said to you in the fall of 2018 when I came here to start the new church year. I said, there's a part of me and many of you who want to jump right in. And then we've sensed that it might be too much. Maybe we should take a softer first step and ease into things. But after watching what's happening in the world, I realize we can't afford to ease into anything. We can't afford to sit on the sidelines anymore. We can't afford to wait things out and hope they'll get better or change on their own. I then quoted UUA President Susan Frederick Gray, who had told us in June of 2018, "This is no time for a casual faith." It's still true. This is no time for a casual faith. And I told you then in the fall of 2018 that we're living in difficult, challenging times in a society that rarely looks like that beloved community of which we UUs dream. That rarely looks like the beloved community in our drawings. And you may remember I had all the drawings up here behind me that day. So, those drawings were what you wanted First Church to be. How you say you want to be. Well, that takes some work. It's going to take some change. It's going to mean that we may have to do things differently. We do have to do things differently. It doesn't mean we throw everything out the window, but some things must change. Now, because of democracy, because of personal choice, because of freedom, you have the power to choose whether you want to go on this journey, whether you want to do this work. You get to make those decisions. I promised you in that fall of 2018 that we wouldn't go so fast that we would leave you behind. We said that. We're not going to leave you behind. But here's my message to you. If you want to do the work and be open to change, creativity, and innovation, if you want to be inclusive and diverse and create a seat for all at the table, come on, get on the bus. Roll up your sleeves because we've got much to do. If you don't want to do this work, if you don't like the way that things are going, if you don't like the direction, if you're not comfortable, if you're not sure, that's okay. That is your choice to make. We still love you. We said that we wouldn't leave anyone behind. I promised you that I wouldn't leave anyone behind, and I won't. But we also won't force you to come along. And we won't cancel the trip. So if you don't want to come, it's okay to stay behind. We'll keep an eye on you. And if you're ready to join us later, we'll be here. We'll make sure that we come back and pick you up. You are part of this community. And even if there are times when the work is a little too hard for you and you have to step away for a while, or it's too hard for us and we ask you to step away for a while, it's because we love you. It's because of our covenant with one another. You are always welcomed back. So during this year of discovery, we learned a lot about ourselves. We've got so much to be grateful for, so much to be proud of, and still so much work to do. I'll leave you with some words from Reverend Bill Sinkford, who said, "We are a gentle and generous people, but let us not forget our anger. May it fuel not only our commitment to compassion, but also our commitment to make fundamental changes. Our vision of the beloved community must stand against a vision that would allow the privilege of the few to be accepted as just and even holy. Our religious vision must ask again and again, who is my neighbor? And strive always to include more and more of us. As we intone the words that give birth to this nation, we the people, we are and we should be both a gentle and an angry people. Let us forever remember our heritage, our present, and honor our future. Let us do the hard work together. We have discovered much, and I promise there are more discoveries to come. Blessings on all of you. As we leave this holy space, may we remain committed to community, committed to living into our principles, committed to learning, committed to serving, committed to bringing our best selves to everything we do, committed to allowing the power of love to guide, teach, and protect us, to heal, redeem, and transform us. Let us now extinguish our chalice by reading together the words that appear on your screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This concludes the worship portion of our service. For those who have pre-registered, our congregational meeting will begin at 11:15. All members have received an email link to join the meeting on Zoom. It will begin at 11:15. This coming Wednesday, our Vesper service is a celebration of milestones. We will be on Zoom so that we can see our youth and our families and celebrate all the great things that have happened to us during this year.